What should I do if my wife suddenly becomes filthy rich? Divorce her immediately. Hesitate for even a second. And you've already lost. The day Virginia Moo became the richest person in a city, I took half of her fortune and walked away without a second thought. Her eyes were bloodshot as she grabbed my neck. Theodore, you're so heartless. It's been 10 years, and the fattened pig is finally ready to be slaughtered. Who understands this joy? Chapter I think I might be the first man who wants to divorce his wife because she became rich. The reason? Simple. I discovered Virginia had the intent to cheat, and she was just a step away from making it happen. After a brief moment of shock and heartbreak, I was at ease again. Actually, ever since 5 years ago, when our company got its first venture, capital and began expanding rapidly, I had a feeling this day would come. They say men become bad when they have money. Well, women aren't any different. Virginia would never know that the day she talked about her affair with Bianca, I was standing just outside the study holding a cup of coffee. Moo, the Oscar from the TV station isn't bad. What do you think? Virginia casually replied. He's a bit clingy. Then why did you buy him a Maserati? That's not how money should be spent. My fingers froze, and my heart sank. A Maserati. It's just a car. Well, it'll hold him off for you. In case you change your mind one day. Do as you wish. That was the end of the Oscar topic, and the two of them continued talking about their business projects. It seemed like nothing more than idle chit-chat over an afternoon tea. Nothing important. That cup of coffee, though, ended up in my stomach, and I stayed up all night, eyes wide open until morning. The funny thing is, when we first married, we were so poor we couldn't even afford a wedding banquet. Now Virginia was preparing a grand wedding for me. She felt guilty towards me, but that didn't stop her from trying to please other men. How the human heart is hard to understand, and money is even harder to grasp. Divorce must divorce, and quickly. Delay, and things could change. I met with lawyer Diado at a cafe. Coincidentally, the TV in the lobby was playing an interview with Oscar, the host of a financial show. It seemed Virginia met him on that show. The young, sunny host spoke elegantly, with wisdom in his words, telling the story with ease. He didn't show any weakness in front of the wealthy people others could only dream of becoming. Diego was an old classmate of mine, now a well-known lawyer handling divorce cases. Noticing me staring at the screen, he chuckled and asked, big mistake. He came up. I frowned and sneered. That's really unfortunate. I wasn't in the mood to discuss Oscar, so I just told him I was divorcing Virginia. Theodore, are you joking? You finally made it to the top, and now you want to divorce. Am I someone who jokes about marriage? I rolled my eyes. Our whole class witnessed how I married Virginia when her company was on the brink of bankruptcy, so I didn't blame Diego for being surprised. You married her when she was at her lowest. Now she's the richest woman in a city, and you want to leave her. Theodore, you sure are something, I replied slowly. Diego, I could handle that poor woman back then. But now she's the richest woman in a city. Do you think I can still manage her? You've handled so many divorce cases. I thought you'd understand best. The people who understand the darkest and most ugly sides of human nature. Aren't they the lawyers? Especially divorce lawyers. Diel was silent for a long time, then asked cautiously, Virginia, is she cheating? She's just one step away from it. Then to sentence her to death now. That's a bit too harsh. Don't you think? I snickered. If I'm not harsh now, soon she'll be the one turning cold on me. Dio, tell me, in the cases you've handled, when dividing property, is it done based on love or based on guilt? When her new lover finally takes the stage, how much she gets will depend on how much he cares. I won't be the one in a passive position. Diego was stunned. Ferdinand, you're so calm. It's scary. My calmness was the result of 5 years of experience. And that's not even considering Oscar, Virginia's secretary. Zach had been eyeing her too. I don't remember exactly when, but I once caught a glimpse through the slightly ajar when I came to have lunch with Virginia. Zach was helping Virginia with her rest sipper. Then he carefully took out a warm hangover soup from his lunchbox. Zach was always flattering her, and she would always turn him down. But that day, when the driver brought the lunchbox home, the hangover soup I made was still untouched. Not even the knot I tied on it had been moved. The long ash fell from my cigarette. Diego sighed deeply and looked at me. Theodore, I really should have my clients come to you for advice. I leaned forward, extinguished the cigarette and smiled. It won't help. They're unwilling and they're not heartless enough. What they can't accept is letting such an excellent wife go to someone else, thinking they can still handle it. They're exceptions. Until the final moment. When all love is gone and faces are torn, they can't bear to do it. So you see, one shouldn't be too greedy for both money and people. That leads to losing everything. I'm different, because no one can do what I do. Always planning my way out in a marriage. Of course, I'll divorce her. But before I do, I must meet with Oscar as Virginia's husband and have a good talk. Chapter 2. In the evening, at the dinner table, I purposely put on Oscar's show as background, and it was the episode with Virginia. She touched her face and asked, "What do you think I looked beautiful that day?" She acted flawlessly, without a hint of guilt. I almost started to think that the Maserati was really just a toy car. Virginia, I'm interested in a car. She wasn't bothered. I didn't know you were into cars. Which one? I'll go with you to pick it up someday. I calmly looked at her. Maserati Levante. Her smile slowly faded, and then she looked at me, slightly assessing. Aren't you a fan of Land Rovers? I knocked on the table. Fine. Let's go with a Land Rover, as long as it's more expensive than the Maserati. I didn't mind. It wasn't long before I crossed paths with Oscar. His Maserati collided with my Range Rover. It was all part of my plan. Unfortunately, his car didn't handle the collision well. Oscar Hahn stood helplessly by the car, glaring at the front of my vehicle with resentment. The two luxury cars collided, attracting a crowd. The police arrived immediately. Mr. Hahn, the video shows you made an illegal U-turn. You're fully at fault. Oscar Hahn looked at his dented door. Both headlights shattered, and the bumper bent out of shape with a pained expression. Couldn't you have given way? I was already prepared to take the points. And now both cars need repairs, he said, his eyes red, playing the victim. His entitled attitude even left the police dumbfounded. A frustrated man nearby couldn't help but shout, "You must be used to people letting you go." But this is a Range Rover. What are you afraid of? Feels good. Indeed. Only magic can defeat magic. I watched the scene long enough, then slowly got out of the car. Oscar's accusations came flying. Why are you driving so slowly in front? Is the Rotterdam shopping mall? I wanted to overtake you, but you wouldn't let me, blocking my way. I was in a hurry and had no choice but to step on the gas. His words abruptly stopped when he saw me. His face turned pale. I smiled and said, "With such a good car, still in such a hurry for work. Seems like even a Maserati can't change your fate." Oscar clenched his teeth, his face turning pale with anger. Without a word, he got back into his car. He told the police, "Just handle it. I'll pay for the repairs." The police nodded and quickly directed traffic to resume. I thoughtfully watched his retreating figure, sneering quietly. I wasn't in a hurry to get a divorce. But, surprisingly, Oscar was even more eager. Perhaps it was because he couldn't accept that I crashed into his car. A few days later, I received a video file from Bianca's phone. At a square mahjong table, Virginia leaned beside Oscar, waving her hand and directing the game. Oscar glanced at him and cockathiously said, "Vi, what should I play? My palms are sweating." Virginia looked at him with indulgence. "Just play anything. If you lose, it's on me." The people at the table burst into loud laughter as Oscar bent down to pick a tile. His bangs occasionally covered his eyes. Virginia naturally and thoughtfully brushed the hair from his eyes. "Play well." Oki pressed the phone down with trembling fingers and tossed it onto the bed. A feeling of bitterness and pain surged inside me. I almost lost my balance, my blood rushing to my head. I clutched the edge of the table tightly to steady myself. If her affair wasn't with Oscar, I might have let her be. Not long after I received the video, Bianca called. She anxiously explained, "Sorry, the video can't be taken back. I didn't mean it. It wasn't me who sent it. Please, just don't let Virginia know." I calmly replied, "I know it wasn't you." She sighed in relief. "Don't overthink it. You know how Virginia feels about you, right? It's just socialism." I responded, "I know. Our manager has been through so much. A video like this won't tear us apart." She was embarrassed. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's my fault." I ended the call without any enthusiasm. I didn't believe a word of what the seasoned player in love said. But there was one thing she wasn't lying about. No matter how much of a jerk she was, she wouldn't dare send that video to my phone. This kind of thing could only be done by someone like Oscar, a man of questionable morals who would follow suit. Bianca's earlier words, "I'll hold him off for you," just proved she'd started to have feelings for Oscar. She simply didn't dare to snatch from Virginia's grasp. It wasn't hard for Oscar to get his hands on her phone. I called Diego. "How's it going? How you get the divorce papers in a week?" "No way. Come on. We're old classmates. I'm just letting you cool down a bit. Give it to me tomorrow, or I'll find someone else." All right. All right. It's time to confront Virginia. Chapter 3. Entering the CEO's office. I got straight to the point. "Virginia, I want to ask you for a favor." Virginia propped her elbow on the desk, fingers interlaced, giving me a scrutinizing look. "You're my husband. Whatever it is, just say it." I leaned forward, forcing a smile that lacked warmth. "All right. I want something." "What is it?" I said each word clearly. "The key to the Maserati I Levant." She froze, and her face changed color several times in an instant. We stared at each other for a few seconds, neither of us backing down. Finally, she sighed and said, "Theodore, it's not that important. It's not that much money." She wore the expression of someone thinking I was just making a fuss. "You've never been this stingy." I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. "Miss Moo, can you get it back?" Virginia's gaze was fixed on me, as if trying to judge whether I was serious. I didn't flinch. Locking eyes with her, she bit her lip, rubbed her forehead, then replied, "Fine, I'll give it to you tomorrow." It was the first time I'd been so disrespectful to Virginia, but it didn't matter anymore. The goal was achieved. "Thank you." I gave a faint smile, turning swiftly to leave. As I grasped the doorknob, I heard Virginia's voice behind me. "Theodore, are you jealous?" I responded noncommittally. "You can think that if you want." As I shut the door, I heard something crash to the floor, followed by a loud bang as a fist slammed against the desk. Zach, the secretary, looked at me in shock. I gave him a small smile before stepping into the elevator. This was fine. Once the decision was made, there was no need for hesitation. After getting the key to the Mausoleum Levant, I quickly headed to the TV station to meet with Oscar. At the cafe downstairs, Oscar showed up late, looking haggard. I suppose it doesn't feel good to have a gift taken back. "Mr. Hahn, please sit." I motioned for him to sit. His eyes narrowed as they landed on the car key next to my coffee cup. Then he sat down, sneering at me. "Mr. Theodore, are you here to show off?" He flipped his bangs, looking defiantly at me. The key was indeed given back to me by Virginia, but a woman of her status, when she takes back a gift, there's always something more expensive to replace it with. I looked at him inferently. Of course, I knew this simple fact, but it didn't matter. "And Mr. Theodore, doing this makes my sister look bad." I waited calmly for him to finish, then slowly pushed the car key across the table toward him. "Her face doesn't matter to me, Mr. Hahn. A Maserati is nothing to show off." I took it back just too. I paused, and he looked at me with a wary expression. I smiled lightly. "I just wanted to hand it to you personally." His eyes locked onto mine. "What do you mean? You want it? I can give it to you, but you can't just take it. Understand, my good brother." His face went pale instantly, and the coffee in his hand splashed out. He quickly set it down. I smirked and crossed my arms, looking at it. At this moment, I was like a prickly hedgehog, my quills bristling. That's right, Oscar is my half-brother. As of today, we hadn't seen each other in 20 years, so we pretended not to know each other. When I first heard the name Oscar, I immediately knew it was him. At the accident scene, Oscar had recognized me right away. His target was Virginia, so how could he not inquire about my identity? But since he hadn't officially taken the lead yet, he chose to keep a low profile and not acknowledge me. From what I knew about my stepmother and my upbringing, once the goal was achieved, Oscar would inevitably come crawling back, saying, "Brother, I'm sorry. I didn't know Virginia was my sister-in-law. How could I let him have his way? Divorce is fine, but if Oscar smells Virginia's scent on me, it'll be clear that Theodore, am incompetent. Does he think he can treat me like Simmer did with my mother? Not a chance. Thanks to his mother and him, I've known one thing since I was young. Never let anyone have the chance to catch you off guard. I'll get the divorce, but you will never be Virginia's husband, because that's one of my conditions for divorce." I sneered as I watched Oscar's face slowly drain of color. I continued mocking him. "Of course, you can choose to be her underground lover and ask for some pocket money. But your mother, Sandra, will be disappointed, won't she?" Sandra has always had high hopes for you. She must hope you're more outstanding than her. A mere lover. Do you think she'd approve of you? Oscar's shock had barely registered before. I slammed him back into the abyss. He bit his lip, trembling as he asked, "Brother, do you hate me this much?" I was innocent back then. I coldly watched him put on a show. Then he tried playing the emotional card. "My dad has always felt guilty about you. He just couldn't contact you. I don't know what to say about what happened between my mom and your mom. But we're different. We're brothers by blood." I remained unmoved, snarling, "Oscar, stop with the sentimental talk. I've already lost once in life. That's enough." Oscar's expression changed. He probably didn't expect me to be so unyielding, so he stopped pretending. "Virginia told me your marriage hasn't been happy these years, mainly because you're dissatisfied. And she feels tired of being with you." "That's right. But you won't have the chance." I stood tall, ending the conversation as I grabbed my bag and walked away. Oscar shouted from behind, "Brother, if I help you get the divorce, I won't be losing out. Don't flatter yourself. You're just the fuse for my divorce," I said, throwing him one last indifferent glance before walking off. Chapter 4. After returning home, I started a cold war with Virginia. One, of course, because I was angry of all people. Why did she have to choose my stepmother's son? Since I was going to divorce her, I couldn't keep pretending to be in love. I had to start showing some signs. The event planning company contacted me about wedding arrangements. I put the project on hold, telling them I'd reach out once I had new ideas. An out-of-season wedding. Whoever wants it, go ahead. That night, I had a nightmare. At that time, I was still called Claude. 3 years old. Oscar's mother, Sandra, was my father's secretary, eager to climb the social ladder. One day, she barged into our house holding an ultrasound report, proudly showing off her pregnancy. She claimed she was having a boy, and that the Han family's little master couldn't be left outside the family. She used her son's status to rise in power. Her attitude was arrogant, even though my mother had me, a woman who stayed home to support my father. How could she compete with a professional career woman like Sandra? My father treated the ultrasound report like a treasure without shame. He told Sandra to be careful with the pregnancy and told my mother to get out. My mother fainted from the anger. In the end, it was my grandmother who stepped in to mediate. She wasn't like my father, who could be easily manipulated. She comforted Sandra while keeping my mother calm. "Susie, when men have money, which one doesn't fool around? They're all shameless lowlives. You gave birth to Claude. No one can shake that." To be fair, my grandmother was pretty kind to me as her first grandson. My mother was a little swayed by her words. She had given up everything to my father and this family. And, for years, she had no job. She was afraid of not getting custody of me if they divorced. But Sandra only stayed quiet for a while before causing trouble again. After my grandmother passed away from illness, Sandra became even more reckless. She went around proclaiming that she was carrying my father's child, holding on to my father's weak spot. The more she got involved, the deeper she sank. Once she started treating the company like her own and began persuading my father to transfer assets. She said it was for their son's future. She wanted my mother to give up everything, even her chance to remarry, claiming it would all belong to someone else. My father was brainwashed by Sandra, and, in the end, he forcibly divorced my mother. The result was that my mother left with nothing and couldn't even take me because she had no income. I was naturally assigned to Han family, custody from 3 to 8 years old. 5 full years. Sandra became my lifelong nightmare. I lived in that house worse than a servant. Later, Sandra gave birth to Oscar and her figure changed. My father started spending all his time with other women. This only made my life harder. Sandra's frustration with my father was taken out on me. She would beat me at the slightest provocation, or lock me up as punishment. Because of this childhood trauma, I thought I would never get married, until I met Virginia. Now Oscar wants to copy the story of the previous generation, as he asked for my consent. I won't end up like my mother with nothing at the end. When Virginia heard the wedding was canceled, she came to ask me what was going on. I casually pulled out the divorce papers. "Let's get a divorce." Virginia stood up sharply. "Theodore, are you crazy?" I calmly looked at her. "You know I'm not crazy. Haven't you known about my intentions all these years?" Her chest rose and fell violently as she put her hands on her hips and paced around the room. "Why is it because of Oscar? Stop being unreasonable. I know he's my brother-in-law." I threw the divorce papers at her face. "You know nothing. If you really knew, you wouldn't have done this. I shouted, my voice twisted and trembling. Virginia, how could I not know? Once you had money, you became so full of yourself. What do you even want? The edges of the paper left bloody marks on her face. She stared at me in shock for a long moment. She seemed surprised at how strongly I reacted. After a while, she walked over and hugged me tightly. Theodora, I just want you to reconcile with your family. I was still hesitating whether I should do this. And now you know. In that moment, my hard shell shattered, and intense sorrow made tears spill down my face. They fell silently onto the shoulder of her suit. Virginia, you have no idea, I said. I know. 5 years ago, you saw a therapist. I know everything. Theodore. Virginia held my shoulders tightly, her voice suppressed with pain. I muttered, Virginia, what right do you have? Have you ever felt my pain? What right do you have to be my savior? I wanted nothing more than for that family to die. I wasn't the only victim of that family. You were too. What right do you have to make me reconcile with them? Do they deserve it? Virginia wiped my tears away. Theodore, believe me, I never betrayed you. I gave Oscar the car because Bianca wanted to pursue him. You know how fickle she is. He's still your brother. I pushed her away forcefully, whether she only saw Oscar as a brother-in-law. I didn't want to delve into that. But Oscar's ambition was plain to see. It doesn't matter anymore. Virginia, sign the papers. We agreed when we married that if one day this relationship made either of us uncomfortable, we would let the other go. Ivan, she said helplessly. I sighed with exhaustion. I know the company is at a critical stage. We won't divide it. I just want the shares. Also, Miss Moo's husband cannot be Oscar. These are my only conditions. Theodore, do you think this is fair? Virginia flung the divorce papers aside and approached me with bloodshot eyes. She grabbed my neck and pushed me against the wall. What did I do wrong for you to be so ruthless to me? Virginia, I don't want to test human nature. You'll thank me later. She stared at me for a long time, then buried her head deeply into my chest like a small animal, quietly asking, Theodore, does it have to be this way? Please, Miss Moo, make it happen, I said. She glared at me fiercely. I calmly stood my ground, facing her. Then Virginia pushed me away and turned, swiftly signing the papers without looking at me again. You really are something, Theodore. The day the paperwork was completed, I went to my mother's house for dinner. Since I was 8, she had found a way to make a living, and brought me to live with her. We've been inseparable ever since. For me, she never remarried. When she saw me come alone, she scolded me for not bringing Virginia along. I had a feeling that if I told her about the divorce directly, this dinner wouldn't go well. So I just said Virginia had a social engagement. My mother nodded and reminded us to hurry and have a child. She tightly grabbed my hand, speaking earnestly. Theodore, is Virginia on birth control? We used to say it wasn't the right time for kids, but now she can't use that as an excuse. Right. Seeing my mother's anxious, fearful expression, I suddenly felt a pang of confusion. If I continued with my marriage to Virginia, I would probably end up like my mother. No sense of security. Panicking. Desperately looking for something to hold on to. Hoping for a child to be that life raft. I replied flatly. No one saying no. And no one saying yes. Let's just let it happen. Chapter V. Thinking carefully. In all these years of marriage, Virginia and I only talked about having children once. Just once. In the humble rented apartment. She quietly held me. Theodore, I promise to be your perfect wife. Right now, I don't have time to have kids. Even if I did, I wouldn't have the time to take care of them. So I'd have to leave it all to you. I can't bear to add that burden on you. I thought about it and nodded understandingly. She was still young at that time, looking at me shyly as she rubbed her nose. If my business fails, at least you'll have options. I was so angry I grabbed her ear and scolded her. Oh, Virginia, who was it that promised to stay together through thick and thin, growing old together? Fail, aren't you at rock bottom right now? Maybe I should choose again. She immediately raised her hands in surrender. No, no, no. Fyodor, I was wrong. Then she kissed me deeply. Anyway, you know what I mean. Anything is fine, but you can't suffer. I hugged her, laughing and crying at the same time. I'm not suffering. I won't be a poor husband. Even when you succeed, I won't suffer. She nodded seriously. You're really the man I picked. But, in the end, she still made me suffer. 5 years ago, it was Virginia's partner, Roma who first made me think about divorce. At that time, their company was just starting to show promise. Having secured a large investment, it was like going from rags to riches. Roma was the first to show signs of restlessness, taking a mistress on the side, eager to cash in and enjoy an easy life. Because of the partnership between the two companies, Simon, Roma's husband, and I got along very well during those early years of the business. Simon saw that I wasn't working in the company, but instead hosting some entertainment shows on the radio. He even jokingly teased me. Theodore, I've never seen someone so carefree. Your company really needs people. I declined. My wife is efficient. I'm just trying not to be a distraction. You're not worried that when the company does well, Virginia won't appreciate you. He advised me to make myself more present in the company before it became big. That way, I'd secure my position as the future master of the company. I shrugged it off. She was poor. I didn't mind. When she's rich, I won't be humble. I truly didn't care. My childhood experience made me extremely averse to the idea of sacrificing and playing the martyr, working tirelessly only to end up with nothing. I had lost trust in marriage early on. If it weren't for Virginia, I don't think I'd ever get married. Besides, I added, I don't put pressure on her. I don't nag her. I don't need her to have kids. Letting her soar is the best support I can give her. A loud drum doesn't need a heavy hammer. Virginia was never a woman who needed a man's help to succeed. Simon shook his head helplessly, speaking like someone who had been through it all. Theodore, you're still too young. You don't understand yet. You'll get it later. I just smiled and didn't reply. All I knew was that in a marriage, aside from yourself, no one can give you security. I only wanted to make sure that when the time came for divorce, my own grievances and unfairness would be minimized. These were the painful lessons Sandra and my mother's experiences had taught me. In fact, at that time, I hadn't even thought about divorce until Roma's affair became public knowledge. Chapter 6. Roma and Simon, once partners through thick and thin, were now in court against each other. Roma's mistress, like Sandra, wasn't willing to let Roma part with his assets. The two of them had been secretly planning against Simon for a long time. First, Roma sold off her shares, then claimed her business had failed. At that time, Virginia was begged by Roma to act as a mediator. She reluctantly told me that Roma was transferring marital assets. But Simon reacted too slowly. Roma's affair had been showing signs for a long time. But Simon, busy with company matters, was too caught up in the hustle and bustle to notice that a 40-year-old woman might be lonely and empty inside. On the day of the verdict, Virginia and I went to court. Simon's heartbreaking accusations filled the courtroom as he spoke of how much he had sacrificed for his wife. He called her an ungrateful wolf, cruel-hearted. But it was all for nothing. His words were not evidence. They, looking worn out, came to say goodbye to me, unable to meet my gaze. Bro, don't be like me. When she still loves you, get out early. Don't wait until there's no more guilt and only calculation left. He took the thin stack of assets and never appeared in the city again. Meanwhile, his partner and her young handsome toy boy built their happy little family. During that time, I was gloomy and sinking into despair. Virginia took some time out and took me on a trip abroad. On the plane, we had a deep conversation. Theodore, we both knew all along that Roma's heart wasn't with Simon, didn't we? So, you think what Roma did was justified? I asked. Virginia tiredly rubbed her forehead. Theodore, I don't mean that. We can't judge matters of the heart. Roma's asset transfer was legal. At that moment, I knew Virginia had completely transformed into a sharp and calculating businesswoman. Theodore, what are you worried about? Are you afraid I'll be like Roma? Before we landed, she jokingly pinched my cheek. I took the opportunity to ask. Yes, I'm afraid you'll stop loving me and leave me with nothing. She nestled tightly into my arms, laughing softly. I won't, darling. Would she not stop loving me? Or would she not leave me penniless? I didn't ask, but in frustration, I said, fine, I'll leave you when you love me the most. I'll take your love and your money with me. Virginia looked at me and doubled. Okay, everything's yours. So stop being unhappy. All right. I laughed aloud. In that moment, I decided that when the time came, I'd be the one to turn away first. And I finally did. Once I finished reminiscing about that time, dinner was over. I was ready to tell my mother that I'd gotten divorced. As she stood up to clear the dishes, she looked at me with disappointment. You didn't listen to your elders. And now you're suffering. You should hurry up and have a child. Mom, the one who became successful back then. Even if you had given birth to me, you wouldn't have gotten any benefit. My mother's face instantly turned pale, her lips trembling. My fingers trembled slightly as I softly said, "Sorry." Mom, she stared at me for a long moment, wiped her ears and said, "It's my fault. As long as you know what's in your heart, that's enough." I knew what was in my heart more than anyone else. Mom, I've divorced. You don't need to worry about it anymore. I took out the divorce certificate. My mother stared at it in shock, snatching it from my hands and flipping through it, her body swaying. She pointed at me, saying, "Theodore, are you trying to kill me? Divorce. You really went through with it. You think Virginia spoils you, and now you think you can do whatever you want." I smiled foolishly. Mom, when she stops spoiling me, it'll be too late. My mother clutched her chest, wailing in anguish. I opened a bottle of wine for myself. "Why are you crying? I'm luckier than you. She gave me more than half of her fortune. So are you happy now?" I nodded. "Yeah, I am very happy." Paulo Diago was also happy. This divorce case had become one of his classic examples. I believe that once the news breaks tomorrow, his worth will skyrocket. My mother looked at me with regret. "Can't you just start over?" I knew she had always liked Virginia as a daughter-in-law, but she couldn't understand that for a woman at the top, those around her were invisible. "Mom, do you know? Since the divorce, I've been sleeping so much better." It was as if something clicked in my mother's mind, and she burst into tears, tightly hugging me. "Theodore, it's my fault. I should have helped you trust in marriage." I joked. "Mom, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that I've seen too much of the wealthy life these past few years. Either it's a rich wife with a lover, like Simon, ending up with a miserable fate, or it's two people tacitly playing their own games, not seeing eye to eye, living separate lives in the same bed. No other outcome." My mother cried, heartbroken, hugging me. "Theodore, Virginia isn't like that. Can't you trust her?" I shook my head. "Mom, do you think being a city's richest woman is Virginia's end?" It's not. I believe in Virginia's talent and capabilities more than anyone. Her future is so bright that I don't even dare to open my eyes. My childhood has had an impact on me, and I'm grateful to my mom for that. Because of her tragedy, I've always protected myself in relationships, never giving it all away. I'll never give myself the chance to become a poor husband. In 10 years of marriage to Virginia, I've never been wronged or suffered. Now just these shares alone could let me live carefree for the rest of my life. Nothing feels more secure than money. Chapter 7. From now on, I no longer have to wear the guise of Virginia's husband. I packed my bags and left for a trip abroad, under the blue sky by the sea, basking in the sun. Unfortunately, that bastard of a father decided to call me. "Theodore, you've gotten divorced. Want to come work at my company? I'm getting old, and the company will eventually be yours and your brother's." I laughed sarcastically. "Mr. Hahn, are you out of your mind? Isn't the Hahn family already in decline? Otherwise, would someone be so desperate for a Maserati and be over the moon about it?" Through the phone, I heard a violent cough, followed by Sandra taking the call. "Theodore, don't get too smug. Sooner or later, my son will win Virginia over. She'll marry Oscar." "Sandra, you're as shameless as ever." Mr. Hahn's scolding voice came through. "A woman who doesn't belong in the spotlight. Get out." To brothers fighting over one woman. Do you have no shame? Oscar won't marry Virginia, no matter what. Old man, have you gone mad? Do you know who Virginia is? If it weren't for her support, your broken company would have gone bankrupt a long time ago. I don't care who she is. A fickle woman like her is not worthy of my son. Oh, now you're all high and mighty. Back then, I laughed coldly and hung up. What a spectacle. Mr. Hahn had waited so long for Sandra's son, and now her son is also playing the role of the mistress. And now, he wants to focus on me, his legitimate son. I turned away and put that whole family out of my mind. While I was having fun and not thinking about anything, my mom called. "Son, the Hahn family sent over some documents. It looks like some property transfer information." "Oh, is he dying?" My mom sighed. "Maybe he's getting old." Feeling guilty, I scoffed. "Tell him my divorce compensation is something he'll never earn. Not everyone is as miserly as him with their first wife." My mom hesitated. "Well, he has been calculating with Virginia." I was about to hang up when my mom added, "By the way, Virginia comes over to our house for dinner every day. If she has something else to do, she'll have someone notify me." I casually responded with, "Oh, she comes more often than when you were married. And there's no scandal out there." I snapped. "Mom, you don't need to tell me all this. You don't have to entertain her anymore." Later, to avoid receiving more calls like this, I just turned off my phone. When I got back to the country, my good buddy Alex organized a class reunion and insisted that I come for his sake. Reluctantly, I went. Class reunions are never short of gossip and drama. When Diego and I arrived, we could already hear Marco's loud voice outside. Knew it. Virginia and Theodore were going to divorce. Once someone gets rich, they change. Theodore must regret it now. After years of being poor, he didn't get anything good. If he had chosen Alicia back then, he would have been better off. Some classmates teased her. "Marco, you're just saying the grapes are sour because you can't reach them. Didn't you see the news? Virginia's divorce case has topped the list of the highest celebrity divorce settlements in the country." Exactly. Now he's the richest among us. And don't forget, Alicia is still unmarried. Marco wasn't convinced. It must be because Virginia did something to wrong him. When Theodore caught her, he's sitting on a large settlement. But secretly, I bet he's crying. Well, at least he's crying in a BMW. The wind doesn't touch him. The rain doesn't soak him. "Marco, just stop worrying about it." I overheard for a while and turned to Diego with a smirk. "Class reunions are really something." Pedro laughed awkwardly. "Let's go in. It's just Marco making a fuss. It's not every day we have a reunion. So let's play along and keep the peace." Indeed, being a lawyer, he knows how to handle things. Without my influence and fame, the turnout probably wouldn't have been so large. I didn't even realize that my divorce had made it into the news. Alex hurried over and slapped me on the back. "What are you doing out here? Let's go in." Inside, the room fell silent. Soon people began standing up to greet us, with Marco standing at the back, biting his lip. Alex, the class monitor and the one organizing this event, clapped his hands. "All right, everyone. Tonight, we're going all out. Whoever has the most money, they get to pay for everything." Then, he put his arm around my shoulder, giving me a meaningful look. The room erupted in applause and cheers, and the atmosphere immediately became lively. I smiled helplessly. "Sure, go ahead. Everyone's welcome to enjoy." Diego and I clinked glasses. Theodore, "Well done. Let's not let anyone down." As the evening wore on, "Alex, a little tipsy," said originally. I thought I'd just gather anyone for a reunion. But then I thought, let's make it a proper one. I lowered my gaze and smiled faintly. If Virginia and I hadn't divorced, this reunion could have been more of a celebration. Virginia and Elisa were 2 years behind us. They were juniors. It really wasn't appropriate for them to gather together. One of the guys raised a toast to me with admiration and envy. Our class. I have to say, I admire Theodore the most. He married Virginia when the Hahn family went bankrupt, and when she became the richest woman, he divorced her. Who else has the guts to do that? Everyone burst into laughter and applause. Well said. Truly carefree. Theodore Hahn has real personality. Marco raised his glass to me too. I, however, felt indifferent and didn't respond to his words. Alex noticed my darkening expression and quickly changed the topic. "All right, everyone. This is a reunion, not a life critique session for Theodore. Come on, let's hear how everyone's been doing these 10 years. Diego stood up to and shouted, "Exactly. We can't let Theodore steal all the limelight." At last, the reunion returned to its usual pace. The mood was lively, and I drank until my face turned red. Just as it was winding down, a server knocked and brought someone in. Alex, you're not being fair. Not inviting me in a city. I'm the real host here. Virginia walked in with a bright smile. Alex looked at me with an innocent glance. "Miss Moo, you're so busy. I was just worried you wouldn't have time." The classmates chuckled. Virginia, unbothered, sat down and said wryly, "No choice. Even if I'm busy, I have to make time. Otherwise, my husband will really leave me." Everyone turned to look at me. I was speechless. From what she said, did she still want to get involved with me? The divorce agreement had been signed. She couldn't just back out now, could she? Alex also noticed my discomfort and quickly changed the subject. "Theodore, now that you're rich, what kind of girlfriend are you looking for?" I thought for a moment and answered, "Most likely a sexy, confident older woman." Virginia's face immediately turned dark. Later that evening, I was in Alicia's counseling office, and she asked me the same question. Theodore, you still have a long way to go. Have you ever imagined what your next partner might be like? I tilted my head, thinking probably someone like young Virginia. Alicia rubbed her nose with a wry smile. You really know how to hurt me. I patted her hand and said honestly, Alicia, this is the truth. You know it. In my life, loving Virginia took all the courage I had. Alicia, who had been my psychologist for 5 years, understood this truth better than anyone. Although doctors and patients can't be together, I was determined to rid myself of the feelings I had for her. She sighed deeply, then stood up. All right. Let me take you home. When we reached the parking lot on the first floor, I stopped in my tracks. Alicia, you should continue moving forward. I'm not someone she can wait for. 10 years ago, I turned down her confession, and I told her this. Alicia lowered her hands and looked at me deeply in the dim light. I looked back at her, until a car's headlights suddenly flashed over us. With a thud, Virginia slammed the door and walked over to us. Theodore found a new lover so soon. Her voice sounded cold as if touched by frost. Virginia gritted her teeth and pulled me back, then slapped Alicia across the face. Alicia gasped, stumbling back a little. I quickly stepped forward, grabbing Virginia, shouting, Virginia, what are you doing? Why are you hitting her? I regretted my actions instantly. I never imagined Virginia would resort to violence. Virginia's chest heaved, and she held me tightly, coldly glaring at Alicia. She deserves it. I clenched my fists, not knowing how to explain. Then I heard Virginia say, Alicia, are you having fun playing me? And Alicia rubbed her cheek, snickering, her shoulders shaking with laughter. I did play with you a little. But, didn't I warn you? This move shouldn't be used lightly. Not everyone can come out of a situation alive. I slowly calmed down, my gaze flickering between the two women. When did Virginia start contacting Alicia? What kind of game did Alicia play with Virginia? Chapter 8. Virginia pulled me to the riverbank. She brushed the wind-swept hair from her face, giving me a soft look, her voice gentle. Alicia told me you have severe psychological issues. She said that only if you reconcile with your birth family will you truly believe in me, in our marriage. At the time, when Oscar Shaw wanted to invite me, I thought I'd give it a try. Then Bianca wanted to pursue him, and I was worried she was just playing with your brother, so I pretended to have an ambiguous relationship with him. But now I know it was Alyssa who lied to me. You could never forgive them, and what I did only pushed you further away. So, this was the whole story behind Oscar. Virginia had already known about the issues in our marriage. They don't matter. I just want to live well with you. Do you understand? Seeing Virginia's regretful expression, I couldn't help but laugh. Alicia is a smooth talker, and this is exactly the kind of thing she would say. And now, the sharp Virginia had been successfully brainwashed by her. But, so what if I knew the truth? I still don't regret the divorce. I said coldly, Virginia, thank you for telling me all this. But in the future, we won't be walking the same path. Virginia looked at me in shock, even desperate, as she grabbed my arm tightly. Theodore, haven't I explained enough? Do you want me to bring Oscar here for confrontation? Her voice choked for a moment. Or do you think I'm too rich? Should I go bankrupt? Stop messing around. I snapped. I can't take that gamble. Virginia, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that I don't trust human nature. Do you understand? Virginia's future, paved with money, was filled with bloody lessons and examples from the past. The original wives of the gambling kings and Li Ka-shing who ended up with a good fate. Even their children ended up with miserable outcomes. Meanwhile, the second, third and fourth wives lived grand lives. But, I didn't need to argue these points with Virginia. To her, those were just baseless things. But I still held firm to my motto. Live freely and protect myself. I took a deep breath and said to Virginia, right now, I'm really happy. Please let me go. Virginia looked at me in disbelief, her body trembling slightly. Theodore, is it so painful to get back together with me? I looked at her calmly. In these 5 years, I haven't been happy for a single day. Virginia was speechless. In the end, we parted ways without a happy ending. I didn't miss the disappointment on Virginia's face. She probably thought that once everything was explained, it would be fine. But I didn't want to keep sacrificing myself in a marriage anymore. I thought I made myself clear, but I underestimated how Virginia would never give up easily. Seeing that things weren't progressing on my side, she started targeting my mother. My mom first began visiting my apartment frequently, cooking for me, acting as Virginia's messenger. Was she afraid I might be distracted by a sexy older woman? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Undast in frustration. Mom, have you been too active lately? She widened her eyes, then shyly said, Virginia, do you think I'd become younger? She got me a beauty card and a gym membership, and signed me up for a lot of interesting classes. It's been so much fun. So was this about broadening her horizons, uneasing her mind? She had been more anxious than I was before, always talking about having a child to stabilize the marriage. Now she was so positive. Virginia's methods were certainly exceptional. I got up to leave, meeting Diego for dinner to get away for a while. After I poured out my frustrations, Diego pinpointed the issue with a sharp remark. Virginia wants your mom to help motivate you. She's genuinely trying. Theodore, aren't you at least a little moved? His eyes sparkled with curiosity. I shook my head without hesitation, replying bluntly, not at all. It was just frustrating that no matter how a marriage ends, it never seems perfect. Either the couple completely tears apart and never speaks again, or like Virginia and me, we stop at the right time to minimize the damage. But there's always one party who won't be satisfied. So after thinking it over, I called Virginia. I tried to reason with her in a way that matched her thinking. If we treat our marriage as a big investment project, I want to tell you that with me. Your risk assessment hasn't passed. I'm not willing to invest and take that risk. Virginia probably didn't expect me to say this. There was a long pause on the line. Theodore, do you really have to define a relationship like this? Can't you trust me just once? Virginia, not supporting this project doesn't mean it won't succeed, but I'm willing to stand by my current decision. I spoke calmly. Virginia and I could never go back to the past. After I took that step towards divorce, I understood that better than anyone. Virginia's coughed. I can feel how hard you're working to convince me to let go. I had no words to respond to that. Finally, as we hung up, I said, in the divorce, you gave me the greatest leniency and respect. I won't stop you from doing anything. But Virginia, I hope you can let go soon. My mom, standing by the door, looked at me with sadness and helplessness. Theodore, you're so rational, so heartless. You're giving her no hope, I said flatly. Maybe I shouldn't have married in the first place. I hadn't realized sooner that I wasn't capable of bearing the weight of marriage. Chapter 9. Virginia appeared again on Oscar's show. Unlike the last time, when she was dressed in elite attire, she had lost a lot of weight, now wearing a sexy, form-fitting gown. Alex called me, teasing me. Theodore, Virginia's body looks great. How she used to always wear suits. I didn't realize. She's not really afraid that you might fall for a sexy older woman, is she? I didn't respond. It wasn't news anymore that Virginia was pursuing her ex-husband in a city. Now it's just about who breaks first. Actually, to be precise, it was Virginia who insisted on confronting me. Oscar's interview wasn't as relaxed as last time. This time, there was an air of tension. Virginia's recent outfits really bring out her femininity, Oscar remarked. Virginia coolly and self-deprecatingly said, not really. I'm just wearing this for someone to see. My body isn't bad either. Oscar laughed awkwardly and tried probing. Then congratulations, Virginia. You must have a new love. Thanks for the blessing. She responded indifferently. Her sparse words and cold attitude nearly made Oscar lose his footing several times. Even my mom, wearing reading glasses, was watching intently. She then asked me, Virginia isn't doing this to get back at you, is she? I rolled my eyes. Mom, you should be taking care of yourself. Go get some beauty sleep. She stretched and yawned. Oh, I'm getting old. I don't understand the ways of young people these days. Before heading to my room, I turned to my mom and looked at her seriously. Thank you. Mom, seeing you like this really makes me happy. I said it sincerely. Mom patted me on the shoulder. Theodore, I should live for myself too. I'll introduce you to someone sometime. I was instantly excited. Really? She blushed a little. I've known him for a while. Met him at the gym. I've just been too shy to tell you. How could I not be happy for you? I was genuinely glad for her. Just before bed, she couldn't hold back. Theodore, I've started over. I'm not afraid of the future. Can't you give Virginia another chance? I took a deep breath and helplessly said, Mom, you really don't need to feel guilty. If the things from my childhood truly affected me, I can assure you, they become a positive influence, not negative pressure anymore. You have to trust me. I really can live well on my own. And right now, I am really, truly happy. Happy enough that I don't want any second option. The buzz about a city's richest woman, Virginia, and her astronomical divorce settlement hadn't died down yet. Then her grand declaration of love for her ex-husband made even bigger headlines. Even Alex was mocking us on a talk show. "Oh my God. Is Theodore the only man in a city?" He joked. It was laughable. That day, after filming the show, I came out of the studio to find Satch waiting for me in the parking lot. I rolled down the window, and he respectfully handed me a document. "Mr. Theodore, this is the new supplier list for the company's upcoming bidding event. Virginia hopes you will host it." I took and flipped through it, not surprised to see the name Galaxy Foods listed. My dad, Oscar, had run this small food company for decades. At one point, they had given him all the glory, allowing him to abandon his wife and children. Who would have thought that one day he'd be begging for a meal under my roof? I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Zach added, "Mr. Theodore, don't worry. The procurement manager will assist you fully with this event." I nodded and accepted Virginia's gesture of goodwill, as long as she didn't mention remarriage. I had said I wouldn't stop her from doing anything. Besides, I really wanted to meet with the Hahn family. I casually tossed the folder onto the passenger seat and looked at Zach. "Zach, you're looking quite radiant lately. Is something good coming your way?" Zach shyly looked at me, then awkwardly pulled out an invitation from his bag. "I'm getting married next month. I'd be honored if you could attend." I stared at him for a moment. Zach, under my gaze, started to sweat, his head still lowered. "Theodore, if I've been inconsiderate in the past, please forgive me," he said softly. I snickered, not saying anything. I'm not a saint. Zach had certainly made me uncomfortable before, and I didn't have to make myself suffer. But that invitation was clearly his true intention, inviting me to the company event. There was no need for a personal assistant to be waiting for me in the parking lot. Virginia seemed to have become more savvy, addressing all the people and issues that used to annoy me. I felt a bit moved, but that was all. As the two major shareholders of the company, it was good that we could eliminate misunderstandings for the company's sake. Chapter 10. At the supplier list conference, I sat confidently at the head of the table. Even if it weren't for Virginia, I had half of the company's shares, so I was rightfully in that seat. The Hahn family, father, mother and son were all present, just as Sandra had said on the phone. Without Virginia, Galaxy Foods would have gone bankrupt long ago. As soon as the conference ended, the Hahn family invited me to dinner. I had just sat down when Virginia followed in. Sitting beside me, she quietly asked, "Theodore, was the conference smooth? I've been so busy today, I didn't have a chance to check in." She completely ignored the awkward looks on the faces of the three members of the Hahn family who had stood up to greet her. I held back a smile. "It went well. I had a great time." Oscar cleared his throat and coughed awkwardly, sitting down in discomfort. Sandra and Oscar's faces twisted with anger. "Theodore, Miss Moo, even though you're divorced, you just still get along so well." Sandra finally couldn't hold herself back and spoke with a tone that tried to impose authority. I didn't bother responding. Virginia shot her a glance. "Thank you for your concern. Our divorce was just a bit of a joke." I sneered. "We were the original couple. Even after the divorce, it was done with dignity. Unlike some people who had to take the third party's place. Even if they get married, it's just a bitter couple who have children, who know how to follow the same path." Sandra's face twisted in fury, her lips trembling. She stood up abruptly, pointing at us. "Virginia, Theodore, you." Virginia's expression turned cold. Oscar hurriedly stood up and raised his glass. "Sister-in-law, thank you for supporting our company this past year. We'll also be releasing more new products in the future." Virginia rested her chin on her hand, responding inferently. "Moo's selection has always followed principles of fairness and justice. Mr. Hahn is very confident in his products, which is good." Galaxy Foods was on the brink of bankruptcy. There was no such thing as confidence. Otherwise, Oscar wouldn't have given up his life as a rich heir to come all the way to a city to host a small local show. Oscar's face alternated between white and green, helplessly looking at me. "Brother, the company is also part yours." "You," Oscar Hahn quickly added. "Theodore, your brother's right. When you have time, come to the company and finalize the transfer paperwork." I smiled faintly. "Mr. Hahn, there's no need. You should leave the scheming to your son." Oscar Hahn started coughing violently from anger. Sandra glared at me, her voice sharp as she shouted, "Theodore, I didn't say anything when your father gave you half of the company. but now you've really taken advantage of it. What have you done for the company? I coldly responded. So, you and Oscar try to flirt with Virginia too. Protect the company and also conveniently make him Moose's husband a perfect two-in-one deal. Oscar hurried to explain. Brother, you misunderstood. Stop apologizing. He clearly set up Virginia to fall into a trap. Once she was hooked, he discarded her. I interjected. Sandra was just like always, causing chaos with no reason, making a scene just to stir things up. It was a perfect fit for the narrative. If there were outsiders who didn't know, they'd really think it was Virginia who had abandoned us, and we were teaming up to trap poor Oscar. Before I could speak, Virginia was the first to stand up and slam the table. Mrs. Hahn, should I bring the text messages where Oscar asked me for help to the TV station so everyone can know the truth? Virginia pulled out her phone, no longer giving Oscar any dignity. You were entangled with Bianca, afraid of offending her that day at Major. You had me pretend in front of Bianca. Mr. Hahn, have these memories been eaten by a dog? I looked at Oscar thoughtfully. He really was playing the game step by step, carefully calculating everything. In fact, I hadn't asked about the origins of that Maj Horn video until today. It turned out Oscar had orchestrated the whole thing himself. I sneered a few times, pretending to fear Bianca as a lie. The real reason was to create an ambiguity with Virginia, to get us to divorce. Right, Oscar. Oscar's face turned bright red with anger, and he looked helplessly at Virginia, still holding on to a glimmer of hope. Clearly, he wasn't willing to accept failure. Virginia looked at me and said, Theodore, I was out of my mind back then. If he had just said he was your brother, Bianca wouldn't have dared do anything to him, even if she had 100 guts. Sandra was left speechless, her old face utterly crushed. Oscar Hahn was even more humiliated, his face turning a deep shade of purple. He pointed at Sandra and cursed. You wretched woman. You couldn't even get yourself into the spotlight. And now you're teaching your son to be bad. You before he could finish, his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed backward. Sandra and the others rushed to catch him. The scene immediately became chaotic. I kindly called an ambulance, and Virginia and I walked out together. We didn't drive, just strolled down the street. After walking for a while, I finally calmed down and asked Virginia, So, you don't want me to reconcile with my family anymore? Virginia looked at me helplessly, with a hint of affection. No, I've made up my mind. This family, none of them are worth it. They don't deserve it. Theodore, I'm sorry. Virginia and I still had no intention of remarrying. I was living freely. Virginia was also getting more comfortable with things. Some people mocked Virginia for not being able to patch things up with me for so long, worried she might end up working for me for life. She responded to find joy in hardship,